Have you seen a $100,000 bill lately? Few people have. At the American Numismatic Association's Modern Money Museum, visitors can view fantastic displays ranging from an antique coin press to rare coins, metals, and paper money valued at thousands of dollars. Coins can depict the battle for liberty, or the birth of a nation, the passage of a dream, or a hope for the future. Each coin has its own unique story to tell. More than just a means of exchange, coins are miniature works of art that chronicle events in history. The American Numismatic Association is the world's largest organization devoted exclusively to promoting the study and collection of coins and paper money.
For more information about the American Numismatic Association, call 1-800-367-9723. Learn about the hobby of coin collecting.
I'd like to welcome you to the 2 o'clock presentation of the Baltimore Numismatic Theater. Hope you all are enjoying a good show. We are especially pleased for this particular performance in that we have Mr. Eric P. Newman of St. Louis, Missouri with us. And he'll be speaking on my 75 years in numismatics. I don't know why I kept thinking it should say my 50 or my 25 years. Are you really that? No, I can't. Well, anyway, my 75 years in numismatics. Eric Newman, of course, is one of the numismatics' great researchers, writers, and collectors, and there's probably not a person here that hasn't read or owned one of his publications. And I know I personally have just been completely absorbed by his early Paper Money of America publications and his works on the Fugio cents. He has won many Heath Literary Awards. His colonial coinage in Virginia is a standard for Virginia colonial coins, and this list could go on and on and on. And as you can see, it covers over, well, I guess 75 years. But let's let Eric Newman tell you about it. It's my pleasure to present to you Mr. Eric Newman.
Hello, everybody. I didn't come here to talk about myself, I want to assure you. The reason I'm talking and have a title, My 75 Years of Numismatics, is because I wanted to show you how wonderful numismatics can be in making a person's life exciting and interesting and stimulating certainly in a scholarly way and in every kind of a way to make friends and to make contacts with institutions and activities worldwide. So I wanted to tell you just what a simple life I've had to show you as an example how exciting it can be. It has made my life one of the most exciting lives imaginable. And it's hard to believe that it's all because of numismatics. My numismatic career began very, very simply. I was just an ignorant, dumb kid that was given by his grandfather an 1859 worn copper nickel cent. And I took one look at it and put it in my little desk, and that was that until I realized one night, oh, I think I've seen other copper nickel cents. No, maybe it's only copper cents that I've seen in circulation, and therefore maybe I ought to have some others to add to it. And so I began collecting the Indian head cent as a beginner, just to have a little fun. So I had a wonderful opportunity. My allowance was 5 cents a week. And about the time I became 9, my allowance was increased to 10 cents a week. Now I got to spend this big sum on a weekly basis, which was just fine for me. The car fare downtown in St. Louis was 3 cents for me, so I could afford to have at least 7 cents extra to spend. So I went to the one coin dealer in St. Louis, Burdett G. Johnson, and I began buying my coins. Now, sometimes I'd have to use as much as a week and a half salary to buy a coin for 10 cents because we could practically buy almost any coin for that amount of money at the time. Now, B.G. Johnson was, in my mind, the greatest coin dealer America ever had from a point of view of knowledge. He was an expert in everything from colonial America to all the standard Americas, to the classical coinage of the Greek and Roman times, to all of the Islamic issues, to medieval coinage. If you asked him who was the girlfriend of the Duke of Transylvania in 1235, he'd tell you. This was the kind of knowledge this man had. And it was phenomenal. And he was stubborn, and everything that his opinion, that was it. But he changed my life. One day when I wanted to buy a coin for 10 cents, he says, "I won't sell it to you. You don't know anything about it." I said, "That's true." He said, "Well, here's a book. You read the book and you come back and recite to me exactly what is the basis and history of this coin, and then I'll sell it to you for the 10 cents. Now, I hope that might happen to you in any coins that you buy, but I came back and I made my little recitation, and he says, "Now I'll sell it to you. Now, what are you interested in next? Here is a book for you to read, depending on what you want to accomplish in adding to your collection." So this really started my life in numismatics. So I began collecting cents. By the time I was 14, I decided I knew enough about United States cents to give lectures. And so I went around giving those lectures. When I think of the fact that I knew virtually nothing at that time, and that here I was, a fine lecturer, knowing not the slightest about what I was talking, and therefore I beg you to be careful in listening to lectures because there are those that do not know what they're talking about, and I was certainly one of those. However, I went off to get educated, going through high school and college, and at MIT I had a very interesting thing happen to me. At Round Hill, Massachusetts, the radio station which could contact Little America, the Byrd Antarctic Expedition, was one of the contact points, and KDKA in Pittsburgh was the other. Those were the two that could reach Little America. So all of us at MIT were assigned to listen on the few minutes from time to time that you could get through to Little America, and we got the chance of listening to the need for an appendicitis operation by one of the members on that expedition, and then we got excited. So our whole class was working on getting information on how you operated on a person for appendicitis at 40 below zero, and that if you heated up, they had down there burners which required a flame, and therefore could not use morphine or ether or anything of that nature because that would burn and explode. So we got the chance of helping in that operation a little bit. But the nice thing was I met Colonel Edward Howland Robinson Green, and I thought, well, I know he's an eccentric but a very interesting fellow, and that was that. So when I graduated from college and began to collect a little more, and I was still a very enthusiastic collector, Green died, and the Green estate was handled by the Chase Manhattan Chase Bank in New York. And I didn't know any better, and I wrote to the Green estate, and I said, I would like to buy the banknotes from St. Louis area, and also the demand notes issued in St. Louis, and if you have any national bank notes, that would be nice to buy too. So I got a reply from them, and they set a price on these items, and I sent them a check, and I was able to acquire these lovely pieces. So I went to my friend Johnson and I said, Burdette, I have bought some lovely little St. Louis items for my collection. Oh my God, he said, you bought something from the Green Estate? All we dealers have been trying to get in to buy things from the Green Estate, and you've succeeded and nobody else has. I said, well, I just approached the thing in the simplest way possible. He said, why don't you try to get some more? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, they've got loads of wonderful coins there. So he said, here's what I'll do with you. I'll make you a deal. Let's go 50-50 buying the Green Estate coins. I said, I can't afford to do much of that, but I'll do the best I can. Oh, he says, we'll gather some money. So I marched myself up time after time to New York to go over the Green collection and to bring them back to St. Louis, having bought them. Well, I had a coin collector's dream. I could select from the Green Estate whatever coins I wanted for my collection, and he would then select coins of an equal value, and that would balance us off on this deal. If I had coins in my collection that were improved by virtue of what I selected, I could throw those back in the pot and offset what I was getting. So here I had a perfect privilege of selecting nothing but the best and giving up whatever duplicates I had or whatever else I could scramble around with. And this was, of course, one of the giant collections of the United States, so I had all the colonials to pick from, all the half cents, 1 cent, you name it, 2, 3, 5, 10, and so forth and so on. And what a privilege. That was really marvelous. So that was one of the great things of my early life. Now I knew all the early dealers and all the early collectors. Henry Chapman was my friend, B. Max Melm was my enemy, Thomas Elder was crazy. I had Zerby. Zerby was my friend, and I was fostered and cared for by Fred Boyd. And then I got the chance to bring Hans Schulman to America from Europe because he had to be run out of Europe and was in a family of coin dealers. So Johnson had coins of mine and his and stuff, so we gave them to Schulman to try to make a living when he first came over here. Leonard Forer, we were able to back with these coins. It was just simply marvelous to have so many coins and not care about them as long as I got my choice of everything. What do I care about what happened to the rest? So that was my beginning of getting acquainted with all these wonderful people. Then Waite Raymond took an interest in me. He always liked scholarship and people who were willing to work on things. So one day he said to me, you're interested in Machen's Mills in Newburgh, New York, and let's go up there and see what we could find. I said, that's great. So he got his great big Cadillac and picked me up in New York and took me up there, and we just had a wonderful day together. So, of course, I dug around knowing as much about Machen's Mills as I could, and he then told me, well, you ought to sort of begin to write a little bit. You know enough now to put some of it down on paper. And so with that little beginning, I was able to classify and write about the Fugio cents, which I realized were the first cents of the United States that had never been classified for publication. So that was really wonderful. And then I began to enjoy writing because it required me to do real digging. We didn't have everything on microfilm in the early days. We didn't have everything for computer to select. We had to go from library to library and read every bit of it and make notes and try to piece together all the wonderful information that was out there. So I began to write 45 years ago because it was fun and it was very exciting. So then I had been thinking about a lot of wonderful problems. I had always been bothered by the fact that the Vermont coinage had the arms on the shield of the figure on the reverse, and those arms were the British arms, the cross of St. Andrews and the cross of St. George, sort of on the shield. And I wondered, why in the world would Vermont use the British emblem in 1787, long after independence and long after rejection? So I determined in my own mind that somebody had to make a die or a punch with that type of British shield on it, and that they couldn't be doing anything else but counterfeiting British halfpence. And so why should they be counterfeiting British halfpence, and how did that get into the Vermont dies? So I determined there had to be a counterfeit British halfpence made with the same dies of New York and the same punches somehow. And this was a battle that was taking place in my mind. And lo and behold, I get a little group of coins from Stax. A fellow by the name of Walter Breen was working for them, and he shipped me this bunch of coins. And lo and behold, I discover in this group of coins the counterfeit British halfpenny with the proper design and proper English shield that I saw on Vermont's. And so that was discovering a coin first mentally and then having it walk right into your hands. So that to me was one of the most exciting things that happened in my life. And when the 100th anniversary publication of the American Numismatic Society took place in 1957, Walter Breen and I were selected to write articles on American subjects, and I selected this particular finding as a new coin as the subject of my piece. So that was a nice thing to have happen at the American Numismatic Society. And then all of a sudden, people began to think, well, the American Numismatic Society should have somebody on its council that was involved in American numismatics primarily. So a group of my friends by then decided that the only way to get me on the board of the American Numismatic Society is for them to use a procedure by having 10 fellows recommend me. And it was a lovely thing for them to do. And so they insisted that I be on the council and nominated me for that purpose. That was awfully nice. Just think, 10 people that you didn't even realize wanted you to do something like that. Well, I've never worked so hard in my life. I've been on the council for 32 years, Americanizing the American Numismatic Society and writing and using their library and studying their collection and having all the wonderful privileges of serving the public in that particular capacity. So now that I'm beginning to be beginning to work in numismatics and be able to collect and to do all these things, a wonderful thing came along. I was asked by the ANA to be on the educational forum for the annual meeting. This was in 1961. I had no particular topic that I wanted to talk about. I was always interested in everything, and all of a sudden, Ostheimer put into the Numismatist an article saying that a new type of 1804 dollar had been found and that an 1805 dollar had been found and that he had bought them. I had no subject picked out for the ANA in August when I had to give the presentation, and so I thought, my God, wouldn't it be wonderful either to verify or not to verify what this article was. So I didn't know what to do. I couldn't figure out what this new 1804 dollar was, and I went to sleep one night. He sent me his pictures of his 1804, and then I realized something has got to be wrong with this dollar, and I don't know what it is. And so I woke up the next morning, and I said, oh, if I were wanting to make an 1804 dollar, I too could do it if I could change the position of the stars, because everybody was using star position as diagnostic for the varieties of the silver dollars. So if I could shave the pointing of the stars from one angle to another by shaving away parts of a star point and shortening that star point, I too could make a new variety of a silver dollar. Then, of course, I would have to change the date from some other type of silver dollar to a 4. And I woke up with the entire matter solved, and I can assure you that I slept through that night beautifully until this happened, and then I jumped out of bed and I said, thank you, mind. Whatever computer mechanism is up there solved my problem without me even working on it during my sleep. And so I thought, well, this is going to be the subject of my talk. And then I realized the 1805 dollar had to be made the same way, with a shaving of the existing 1803 date into a 5 by pushing the silver around into the proper shape. So I called up Ostheimer and I said, look, may I see these coins? I didn't want to give a talk on a coin that I'd never seen. So I was going to Africa. My wife and I were going to let the animals get a good look at us. And so I passed by Ostheimer's home, and he glared at me and he said, what do you think of this coin? I said, they're both alterations. And I've got Mr. Bolender agreeing with me. He says, I have a letter from Mr. Bolender telling me that they're genuine. I said, I know, but I've talked to Mr. Bolender and he has changed his mind. Oh, he says, this is outrageous. I said, well, I'm going to give it as a presentation because I think the topic is so interesting. Well, what a presentation. He had his metallurgist there, he had his lawyer there, and the ANA ordinarily, this is a good crowd. I mean, the ANA educational forums, we used to have about 75 to 100 people and thought that was really great. And I was the last to give a talk. And after 4 talks, everybody's usually asleep or bored or something, and lo and behold, bango. I didn't realize when my talk was going to begin, I thought the dealers are all dealing on the bourse floor and all. Well, I found out that a bunch of the dealers had closed their bourse and activities, and all of a sudden there was people were filling in the aisles, standing room only and so forth. They were sitting on the aisles. They couldn't jam, and they wanted to see a fight. They didn't care about the numismatics of the matter. They wanted a good fight. Well, I've been known to be a fighter, and I didn't think I was fighting. I thought I was just giving simple numismatic material, and I didn't know that I would be all interested in the 1804 dollar problem, except that these 2 pieces were to me alterations, and so I thought I better learn something about the 1804 dollars generally. And so during that month period before I left for Africa, I only read 200 different articles on the subject that had been written in the past. I read everything there was written, all of which conflicted with one another and none of which got into the facts at all. And so here I was threatened at this program. Well, it was a program which I laid out very specifically, the fact that these pieces were altered, and so it was a great show. Mr. Ostheimer never spoke to me again. Mr. Lewis Werner, the dealer that sold him the coins, never spoke to me again, and so that was the result. But I wrote it up, and it excited me to write then and do work on the 1804 dollars, the so-called natural ones, and that was the most exciting thing that happened to me. I went to my friend Ken Brissett, and I said, you I've assembled a lot of pictures and a lot of data, let me do some thinking. Well, then I looked at the coins themselves, the 1804 dollar, and lo and behold, I found that a curl was missing on the hair, that the die was, the punch was broken, and that the curl was gone. Then I knew there's monkey shines at the mint. And I realized that was really something. Then I looked at something else that's very obvious to you all now, that there was a rim and a border on the 1804 dollars that was not possible in 1804 because at that time there were no collars to restrain the coinage, and that of course the coinage, when steam coinage was introduced, the collar method had to be used to restrain the coin and get a fine striking. So here I had two things that had never been pointed out before, and then I really went to work and let them have it. So I knew that all the mint officials had issued statements that these coins were genuine and so forth and so on, and then I realized that every mint official had been lying about this entire matter from the very beginning. That wasn't unusual, but I realized they had to cover up for what they did. Then I tried to figure out what were they doing. Well, they were supposed to make a set of United States coins for the diplomatic expedition of Roberts, who was to go to Thailand and to a number of other places in the Far East to make a trade deal. And then I realized, now why in the world would we have coins of 1801 and 1802 and 1803 that were made with these same style dies that the 1804 were made out of? Why would they be faking those in the later period? And then I realized that the mint was just playing around and making coins for themselves rather than doing the legitimate thing. If they wanted to make coins for the mint, for gifts for diplomatic purposes, they should have made them dated 1834. They violated the law completely and totally by antedating coins to 1801, 1802, 1803, and 1804, and therefore I realized they were a bunch of corrupt characters who thought that there were 1804 dollars that had been struck in 1804, and that therefore they were deciding that they could get away with making an 1804 dollar in 1834 and that nobody would ever be able to find out. So that was one of my great pieces of fun, is exposing the total corruption of the United States Mint officials and in making the 1804 dollar. And then, of course, they subsequently restruck them and sold them and fiddled around and did everything terrible they could to try to cover up their deeds. But that was a little exciting for me, and I don't mince any words about these coins. They're fine. So among the pieces going back to the Green Estate, the 1913 Liberty Head nickels were included in the Green Estate, and Johnson and I bought them, and we realized that we had a set of fakes on our hands then, and so after I kept them for a while, I decided I don't need any fakes in my collection. My fake collection is enormous, but I don't pay for fakes and I don't buy fakes. If people want to give them to me, fine. So I have a peculiar principle with respect to fakes that I've got a gorgeous, gorgeous collection of them, but I don't ever buy them for other than their bullion value. So that was another crazy mistake, so to speak, that I made, but it doesn't bother me in the slightest degree. Then, as I began to write, another wonderful thing happened to me. Harley Freeman, who had collected the finest collection second finest collection of American colonial paper money, wanted to sell his collection. He said, I will sell it to somebody who wants to write a book on the subject. I said, I'm here. And so I bought his collection, and that was the beginning of writing on colonial paper money, which I had worked on to a very mild extent. But that shows you what can happen to you just from writing. I've fallen into all this excitement rather than anything else. So then I decided I needed a coin museum. I had so much junk piled up now, I had to have a place to put it. So I went to the United States government and said that under the arch, they had a big museum. I'd love to put a coin museum under our arch on the Jefferson National Expansion Memorial. Oh, they said that would be just great. I said, but I want to run the museum. Oh, well, they said you'll have to comply with the United States regulations and blah, blah, blah. And one of those regulations is that everything in the museum has to be made in the United States of America. I said, including the coins? Oh, yes, they said that would be necessary. I said, well, fine. There are a lot of colonial coins that were not made in the United States of America, and all the foreign coins that I know of were not made in the United States of America. Therefore, that wouldn't be possible for me. Well, they said under those circumstances, we'd have to reject the museum. Then I had to go to a bank to see if they would want to do that. So I went to a bank, and I finally got one bank to say, we'll study it. And do you know what they told me? They told me, oh, an exhibit of coins will draw too many people into the bank and overcrowd the place, and therefore that would be wrong for us. So they turned me down. Finally, I went to the other big bank, and they said, God, we'll be delighted. If you'll run the museum, we'll give you the space and the air conditioning and the place. You take you run the whole thing with your own collection, and it'd be fine. So I thought, I've really accomplished something for myself. I've got it now, an opportunity for a museum. I'm running it. I still own all the coins. I'll put them in a foundation and run it in the right way. And so happy as I am, everything was fine, except that the president of the bank got indicted very shortly after I'd made the deal with him, and for perjury. And so my museum thoughts in that bank went on hold. But 5 years later, he was acquitted by a ruling, and therefore he could go back to work. So it helped me with my coin museum. So that was a slight 5-year delay. It shows you what can happen to me. So I'm just showing you what excitement I have in my life. Then the next wonderful thing, in 1976, we had a centennial, and the American Numismatic Society had a marvelous, marvelous exhibit put up for the occasion. Robbers broke in and stole 100-odd coins, and some of them were mine. And so I had loaned the society some of my pieces for the exhibition. Well, that broke my heart. But a very crazy thing happened. On the Friday before the ANA convention in 1977, I guess it was still there, that was it. A telephone call came into a dealer in Philadelphia offering for sale a number of very rare United States pieces. So they said, we'd like to come and sell them to you on Sunday if you're interested, and we want cash. Well, he said, I'm going to the ANA on Sunday. I have to set up and I wouldn't be able to be there. Couldn't you come on Saturday? No, they said they'd be busy Saturday. And so the operator cut in and said there'll be a charge of $1.90 for another 3 minutes. And so the money was put into the box, and you heard this, the Philadelphia dealer heard this clinking of coins going into the box. So I told you this was on a Friday that he got the call. Well, the technical problem was this. He was busy on Saturday because that was when the robbery was planned. He was selling the coins early before he had stolen them, and therefore was setting the matter up so nobody would know about it, including this dealer, and that the coins would be furnished to the dealer on the Sunday following the Saturday robbery. Well, the robbery did take place on Saturday, and lo and behold, I learned when the coins were taken and the ANS lost all its coins that were on exhibit. They broke 6 exhibit cases, took exactly the coins that they had looked at and admired and decided to steal, and had offered to this Philadelphia dealer. So now my mind goes to sleep, and I thought, what can I do? I'm going to the ANA convention, so I went right away. I left Sunday and arrived Monday morning at ANA. I wanted to talk to this Philadelphia dealer. He was nice enough to tell him his story. I checked with the American Telephone and Telegraph Company and found out that the charge of $1.90 for 3 minutes on a pay phone was the exact cost of a call from New York to Philadelphia, and that this was a pay phone in New York City. And my mind began to work, and I rushed to the office of the FBI. I said, I have your problem solved. We've lost these coins by robbery, but the man put them in with his thumb and pushed them into the old-fashioned type of pay phone, and therefore his thumbprints are on each coin that was deposited, and therefore if we can get to that coin box, we'll find out who did the robbery. The pay phones automatically recorded the number that was called in Philadelphia, and therefore we can trace back what phone that came from. Boy, was I proud. I had solved this case mentally just like that for the FBI. We called up AT&T. They said it would be about $5.5 million in cost to determine quickly how this matter had taken place, to find out what phone there was, that the coins are emptied out of every pay phone every 15 days, and that we would have to change that entire procedure and so forth. And so my great idea went up in smoke as not being practical to be worked out. So that ended that, and we had to wait for the next offer of the coins to a dealer, and lo and behold, we recovered every single coin, and the gentleman who took them went to jail. And so this is part of the excitement of my life. So all I can tell you is if you ever don't find excitement in everything about coins, just see me. Now, I do nothing but write now. I just work into the books and write like crazy on usually about 5 subjects at one time, and most of them don't get finished because I never get the problem solved. I'm only interested in pushing ahead numismatic knowledge by finding something new and different, and that's what's been so exciting about it. So I want you to keep pushing whatever you do and enjoying it and thriving on it and learning as much and sharing as much as you can with others, because it makes life so exciting that you wish you lived several lives in doing it. Thank you so much.
Cleopatra, William the Conqueror, Napoleon, Lincoln, Jefferson, and Washington. Coin collecting is history you can hold in your hands. It also is art, geography, finance, and fun. Coin collecting is an educational and entertaining activity for the entire family. Want more information? Contact the nonprofit American Numismatic Association, a public service message from this station and the ANA.